All right, tip 3, make the most out of selections. And selections are really, really great. I love using selections in Photoshop because they help me stay, help me stay organized. They help me just affect the actual area that I'd like to select in Photoshop. So we're going to jump back into the selections. We talked about them briefly just a moment ago. We're going to jump back into our selections, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do to add to selections, to change your selections, to subtract away selections, and just some general ways to work with those selections. Okay. Well, let's say we want to select out this handle. We want to select out this door handle. Maybe I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to start with something like a rectangular marquee tool. So we'll make a selection right around here. I could use that spacebar if I need to kind of move that around. Now let's say I want to select out this part of the handle as well with the same selection. Well, I can hold down the Shift key, which puts a little plus next to my cursor, and that's going to allow me to make another selection and add it to the original selection. So you're never just stuck with just a square or just a circle. You can bring those together. Now let's say I wanted to go down to my elliptical marquee tool and add to this. Well, I can do that as well. Hold down the Shift key, and I can click and drag around that part of the handle, and I can add that as well. Maybe I want a little bit more detail there. I can hold Shift, click, and drag there. So we're adding to our selection using different selection tools as well. I'll add to this selection a little bit there. And then, you know what? Maybe I don't want this selection right there. So now I'm going to hold the Alt or the Option key, which brings up a little minus key. And there we can take away from the selection. So if I don't need some of these areas selected out, I can take away from the selection using the minus key. And you can see how relatively quickly we've got a selection here that doesn't look anything like a square or a circle. But we've used basically the rectangular and the elliptical marquee tools to get us to this place. So we can combine selections really easily in order to get more advanced selections like this. Now we can also use things like the lasso tool. So keep in mind, a selection is like its own genre in Photoshop. And there are a lot of different selection tools. And you can use any of those tools combined together to affect your selection. So we started off using the marquee selection tool. If I want to add to it with a lasso tool, not a problem. I'll just hold the Shift key and make a selection right over there, and that's going to come right into the exact same selection we've been working on. There we go. Let's just say I got a little bit sloppy with this. Like I wanted to select out this handle, but I want to keep it mostly just on this orange, because if I want to wind up clone stamping or trying to, maybe I want to get rid of this handle, I don't want this brown area of the door selected. I don't want these areas, because if I go try to clone stamp on a new layer, let's say I'm not very, there we go, I'm a little messy, it's just going to kind of flow over onto that, and we really don't want that. So having a good selection is going to allow us to make sure we just paint in those areas. So let's say we have this selection, and I want to refine this a little bit more. It's got a straight edge from here down to here. It's a little bit of a blur, but it's got a straight edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a selection tool that it's going to allow me to have a straight edge. All right, so I want to choose a selection tool that's going to allow me to have a straight edge, but also keep in mind it's not perfectly up and down, right? Like this rectangular marquee tool, it has a straight edge, but it's perfectly up and down. So I'm not going to be able to make that straight edge at an angle just like I want it. So what we're going to do is move to a tool that's going to allow us to do so. We're going to go to our polygonal lasso tool, which is basically just the lasso tool. It just allows you to create straight lines. So here what we're going to do is I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key, because we want to minus that out of the selection. We're going to click on the top there, and now you can see I've just got like a little tail that's going to follow me wherever I go. I can come right down here, click there again, come out and make like a little triangle, okay? And then hit Enter when I'm done with my selection, and it's going to minus out in that straight line. So I can be pretty sloppy here on the left, but as long as I've got a really nice clean line there on the right side, totally cool. And I started out with just a regular selection with a couple tools, and I just minused that area out. Now, we do want our edge to be a little bit blurred, because that's going to fit with what's going on in the image. So to get that, what we're going to do is hit this Refine Edge button. So after we've made our selection, looks good, we've learned we can add and subtract from our layer from our selections. We're gonna hit this refine edge. There we go. And now we have a few different options on how we wanna see it. This doesn't help me out so much because I can't see the rest of my image. This is viewing it on black. You can view it on white. You have a lot of different options here. In this case, I think the overlay option may be pretty good because you can, well, it's better when the whole image isn't red, because the overlay is like a red overlay. So in this case, I don't know how much it's going to really help us. Let's try black and white. Let's see there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to give my edge of my selection a little bit of feather. I want to make sure that the edge is a smoother edge. So we're going to take our feathering, and I'm just going to bring this up. There we go. Now, if I do want to match what's going on in my background image, I can choose something like on layers to view what's going on. Most of the time, overlay would be the best example here. You can probably see it in this case, but it is red on red. So we'll just say that, 10 pixels, I think looks pretty good. If that doesn't work, we can always come back and refine the edge again. Not a big deal. So just by making the edge a little bit blurred, adding that feathering, we're going to hit OK. And now what I can do really easily is I'm going to grab the brush tool, and I'm going to paint right over here, just covering this up. So painting over my little handle, and you can see it's not going to allow me to paint anywhere else, right? So this edge here on the right, I'm not worried about that at all because I can't even paint. Even if I wanted to, it's not going to let me do it. It's not going to let me break the boundary of my selection. Now, sometimes when you're doing this, that little line around the actual selection, it gets in your way, right? I can't really see what the border looks like. I think it looks good, but I'm not sure. Big tip here is to hit Control or Command H. That's going to hide that selection. So Control or Command H is going to hide that selection. It's going to allow me to actually see what it looks like. The selection is still active, by the way. It's still active, but now I can actually see what I'm doing a little bit better. So I'm not so much flying in the dark here. All right, so we'll affect this area. And then you can use your clone stamp tool, your brush tool, whatever tool that you'd like to go ahead and paint that area in. And you can make sure that your edge is going to be a really nice edge because you use a selection tool to actually make that happen.